The morning sun rose over New Haven like it had for the past 20 years. The golden light touched the fields first, then spread across the small town, where 50,000 humans had made their home. Children laughed as they ran toward the school building. Parents waved goodbye and headed to work. It was an ordinary day, on an ordinary colony world, at the edge of human space. Commander Junho stood at the garrison window, drinking his coffee. He watched his daughter Nari walking with her friends toward school. She was 12 years old, and always forgot her lunch. His wife Minji would scold him later for not reminding her. He smiled at the thought. This was why he had accepted this posting. After 15 years in the Earth Navy, he wanted peace. He wanted to watch his daughter grow up on a safe world, far from the wars and politics of the core systems. The defense garrison was small. Just 200 soldiers and a handful of orbital defense platforms. New Haven had never needed more. The colony produced food and simple goods. They bothered no one. The galaxy was at peace, or so everyone believed. Hyun-woo, the colony's chief administrator and amateur diplomat, was in his office reviewing trade agreements when the sensors detected them. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Large ships. Military ships. His hands shook as he activated the emergency protocols. The alarm started screaming across the colony. Junho dropped his coffee mug and ran toward the command center. His mind raced through possibilities. Pirates? No. Pirates used small ships. A military exercise? No one had warned them. His stomach tightened with a fear he had not felt in years. The command center was chaos. Officers shouted reports. Screens showed the incoming fleet. Junho's blood went cold when he saw the markings. Valtorian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Their battle fleet had enough firepower to crack a planet. Get me a communication channel, Junyu ordered. Hyunwoo was already trying. His face was pale as he spoke into the transmitter. Valtorian fleet. This is New Haven Colony. We are a civilian settlement. Please state your intentions. We mean you no harm. Silence. Hyunwoo tried again. Valtorian fleet. We are civilians. Families. Children. Please respond. We know. The response came, but not in words. The sensors showed the Valtorian ships charging their weapons. Get everyone to the shelters, Junho screamed. He grabbed his personal communicator and called Minji. Get to the medical center basement. Take everyone you can. Go now. What about Nari? Minji's voice was tight with fear. The school has shelters. She'll be safe. I love you. Go. He did not hear her response. The first orbital strike hit the school. The building simply vanished in a ball of fire. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone. 500 children died in that first second. Junho's legs gave out. He fell to his knees, staring at the screen. Nari had been in that building. His daughter had been in that building. Sir. One of his officers grabbed him. Sir, we need orders. But what orders could he give? Their orbital platforms were firing, but they were toys compared to the Valtorian weapons. The enemy ships moved with precision, targeting specific buildings, the residential areas, the medical center, the schools, every place where families gathered. This was not a military strike. This was extermination. Junho watched his world die. The town where he had lived for 5 years burned. The fields where Nari had played caught fire from falling debris. The medical center where Minji worked took a direct hit. The building collapsed in on itself. Return fire, Junho ordered, but his voice sounded hollow. All platforms, weapons free. Make them pay for every shot. The human platforms fought. They damaged 2 Valtorian ships before being destroyed. It was meaningless. The enemy fleet had dozens of ships. They methodically erased New Haven from existence. 20 minutes. That was how long it took to kill a world. When the Valtorian fleet finally left, Jumping back into faster-than-light travel, Junho was still standing in the command center. His officers were silent. Some were crying. Others stared at screens, showing nothing but smoke and fire. "Get search teams out," Junho said quietly. "Find survivors." He walked out of the command center and toward what had been the town. The air smelled like burning plastic and cooked meat. He did not let himself think about what was burning. He just walked. He found Minji in the ruins of the medical center. She was still alive, trapped under a collapsed wall. Her legs were crushed. Blood pooled around her. "Junho," she whispered. Her face was gray with shock and blood loss. He knelt beside her and took her hand. "I'm here. I'm here." "Nari?" He could not speak. He just shook his head. Minji closed her eyes. Tears ran down her dirty face. "Why? We were just living. We hurt no one." "I don't know," Junho said. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the sky apart. But he just held his dying wife's hand. "Promise me," Minji said. Her voice was fading. "Promise me you'll make them understand. What they did, what they took from us. I promise." Minji died 3 minutes later. Junho sat there for an hour, holding her hand, before the medics finally pulled him away. The count came in over the next few days. 47,000 dead. Most of them killed in the first 5 minutes. Almost every child on the planet was gone. The Valtorians had targeted them specifically. The schools, the playgrounds, the youth centers. 3,000 survivors huddled in the garrison and the outer farms. They buried their dead in mass graves. There were too many for individual funerals. Junho stood at the graves and said nothing. What words could cover this? A week later, Earth Navy ships arrived. Captain Deho was the first officer to land. He was a hard man who had seen combat across a dozen worlds. He walked through the ruins of New Haven and went pale. He found Junho sitting alone in what had been the town square. "Sir," Deho said quietly, The news reached Earth 3 days after the massacre. Captain Deho had sent the reports through every channel available, videos from the surviving security cameras, medical records of the dead, testimony from the survivors. The data flooded into Earth's communication networks and spread like wildfire. People watched their screens in horror as the Valtorian ships rained fire on New Haven. They saw the school explode. They saw residential towers collapse. They saw children running before the blast waves caught them. The images played on every news channel, every social media feed, every public display across all human worlds. Earth had not seen war in nearly a century. The generation that remembered the horror of human conflict was long dead. People had grown comfortable, soft. They believed the galaxy operated on rules and laws and diplomatic protocols. The videos from New Haven shattered that comfortable lie. President Sujin was in a meeting with economic advisors when her chief of staff burst into the room. The woman's face was white as paper. "Madam President, you need to see this. Now." Sujin watched the footage in silence. She was 70 years old and had spent her life in politics. She had negotiated treaties, managed disasters, and balanced budgets. Nothing in her career had prepared her for this. When the video ended, she sat very still. "How many?" she asked quietly. 47,000 confirmed dead. Most of them were children. Sujin closed her eyes. "And the Valtorian Empire? What do they say?" "They issued a statement through the Galactic Council. They claim New Haven was on disputed territory. They call the attack a proportionate response to human territorial aggression." "Proportionate." Sujin's voice was flat. "They murdered children and called it proportionate. The Galactic Council has scheduled a hearing. They want us to present our case before they decide on sanctions." Sujin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Earth stretching below. Billions of humans going about their lives, not yet understanding how everything had changed. "Cancel my schedule for the next week. Call an emergency session of the United Earth Nations. Get me Admiral Taiwan, and find out where they're keeping the Crimson Sky protocols. Her chief of staff blinked. Madam President, Crimson Sky hasn't been touched in 80 years. It's a relic from when we were still fighting each other. Get it anyway. The United Earth Nations convened within 24 hours. Representatives from every human world crowded into the assembly hall. Sujin walked to the podium and looked out at them. She saw fear in their eyes. Good. Fear would make them understand. We tried to be good members of galactic civilization, she began. Her voice echoed through the chamber. We followed their laws. We respected their boundaries. We sent diplomats instead of warships. We tried to be the humanity they wanted us to be. Peaceful. Civilized. Harmless. She activated the screens behind her. The footage from New Haven played. This is what peace bought us. This is what following the rules earned us. The Valtorian Empire decided that human children were legitimate military targets. They decided our families could be erased to make a political point. And the Galactic Council, the supposed guardians of civilization, called it proportionate. The chamber was silent, except for the sounds of the massacre playing behind her. We have a choice now, Sujin continued. We can go to the Galactic Council and beg for justice. We can file complaints and wait for sanctions that will never come. We can be the victims they expect us to be. Or we can remind this galaxy what humanity really is. She paused and looked directly into the cameras. Her next words would be heard on every human world. For 100 years, we have hidden our history from the galaxy. We did not tell them about our world wars. We did not explain how we survived on a planet that tried to kill us for 1,000,000 years. We did not show them the weapons we developed or the tactics we invented. We let them think we were just another species, just another civilization. We were not. We are the species that climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world, then built cities on its bones. We are the species that split the atom and immediately used it as a weapon. We are the apex predators that learned to hunt ourselves. The vote was called. The result was unanimous. Protocol Crimson Sky was activated across all human space. Every colony, every station, every ship received the same message. Total war mobilization. All civilian production would be converted to military output. All scientific research would be redirected to weapons development. All able-bodied adults would be trained for combat. Humanity was going to war. Admiral Taiwan received his orders personally from President Sujin. He was an old man who had spent his life in space. He remembered stories from his grandfather about the last time humanity fought itself. He had hoped never to see that darkness again. Release the wolves, Sujin told him. Give them everything they need. No restrictions, no oversight, no rules. Madam President, Taiwan said carefully, if we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are. Good. Let them see. Let them understand the mistake they made. In the Oort cloud, at a facility that appeared on no maps and existed in no official records, Colonel Jiwan received the activation codes. She stood in front of 2,000 soldiers who did not officially exist. These were not the disciplined, professional troops of the regular military. These were specialists in a different kind of warfare. Urban combat, sabotage, assassination, terrorism, psychological warfare. Every dirty trick humanity had invented in 10,000 years of killing each other. The Valtorian Empire thinks war is about fleets and honor and rules of engagement, Jiwan told her troops. Her voice was cold and sharp. They think there are limits to what civilized species will do. They're about to learn otherwise. We're not going to fight their kind of war. We're going to fight our kind of war. The kind we invented. The kind we perfected. The kind that made us the most dangerous species Earth ever produced. She pulled up a map of Valtorian space. Dozens of worlds marked in red. These are our targets, not their military bases. Not their fleets. Their infrastructure. Their economy. Their sense of safety. We're going to make them understand that there is nowhere safe, that we can reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. We're going to teach them fear. One of her officers raised a hand. Ma'am, the Galactic Council will condemn these tactics. Let them condemn us, Jiwan said. They condemned 47,000 humans to death with their inaction. We're done caring what they think. The Valtorian High Command felt confident. Their intelligence reports showed human fleets gathering near the border systems. Standard military deployment. Predictable. They had already calculated the likely battle scenarios and planned their countermeasures. The humans would attack, the Valtorians would repel them, and eventually Earth would accept a negotiated peace. It was all very civilized. What their intelligence did not detect were the 16 stealth ships that had already penetrated deep into Valtorian space. The ships moved like shadows, using gravitational fields to mask their signatures. Inside each ship, special operations teams reviewed their targets. These soldiers did not wear standard uniforms. Their equipment bore no insignias. If they were captured, Earth would deny they existed. Chief Engineer Kyungmin led a team of 12 specialists toward Valtorax Prime, the industrial heart of the Valtorian Empire. The planet produced 70% of the Empire's antimatter fuel. Massive processing facilities ran day and night, staffed by thousands of workers. Security was tight around the perimeter, but Kyungmin's team did not need to breach the perimeter. They landed their shuttle at a civilian spaceport 300 kilometers away. Their documents identified them as maintenance contractors. The documents were perfect forgeries. They rented a cargo hauler and drove toward the mountains that surrounded the antimatter facility. This feels wrong, one of the younger specialists said as they drove. These people, they're just workers. Civilians. Kyungmin did not look at him. So were the children on New Haven. So was my niece. She was 8 years old. Remember that. They spent 3 days hiking through the mountains. Valtorians did not expect threats from their own territory, so their internal security was minimal. The team reached a position overlooking the main facility. Kyungmin set up her equipment and began scanning the facility's computer network. I'm not destroying the facility, she explained to her team. That would be too obvious. Instead, I'm modifying the safety protocols. Small changes. The kind that look like software errors. In 3 days, when they start the next production cycle, the containment fields will fluctuate. Just slightly. Just enough. Thanks for watching. And we can't provide it. Give you quantity of 50? How many people work in that facility? One of her soldiers asked. About 12,000 per shift. The soldier was quiet for a moment. And they'll all die? Yes. Good. The team extracted without incident. 3 days later, Facility 7 on Valtorax Prime exploded during shift change. The antimatter containment failed, and the resulting explosion was visible from orbit. 12,000 Valtorian workers died instantly. The Valtorian government launched an investigation, but all evidence pointed to an industrial accident. Equipment failure. Bad maintenance. Not sabotage. Not war. On Valtorax Secundus, the agricultural center of the Valtorian Empire, Warrant Officer Minho and his biological warfare team implemented their plan. They did not carry weapons. Their tools were microscopic, a genetically engineered pathogen designed specifically for Valtorian biology. It was not lethal. Killing everyone would make Earth look like monsters. Instead, the pathogen caused severe illness, high fever, vomiting, weakness, symptoms that lasted for weeks. Minho's team introduced the pathogen into the food distribution network. Grain shipments, water treatment plants, public transport systems. Within 2 weeks, millions of Valtorians across the planet fell ill simultaneously. Hospitals overflowed. The economy ground to a halt. Panic spread faster than the disease itself. The Valtorian medical community was baffled. The pathogen was like nothing in their databases. It seemed to appear everywhere at once. Some doctors suspected biological warfare. But how could an enemy deliver a weapon to every major city simultaneously? It made no sense. On the Valtorian capital world, Commander Vexlar felt safe. He was the admiral who had ordered the New Haven strike. In his mind, he had executed a difficult but necessary military action. Humans had been encroaching on disputed territory. A lesson had to be taught. The High Command had commended him. He was a hero. He was having dinner with his family when the power went out. His security system went offline. The backup generators failed to activate. Everything went dark. Sergeant Yuna moved through his house like a shadow. She had been trained in infiltration since she was 16 years old. For the past month, she had studied everything about Vexlar. His schedule, his security, his habits. She knew his house better than he did. She found him in the dining room, fumbling with a handheld light. His wife and children were with him. Yuna's orders were specific. Vexlar only. No collateral damage. This was not about revenge. This was about justice. Commander Vexlar, she said from the darkness. He spun around, trying to find her in the shadows. Who are you? How did you get past my security? I'm a ghost, Yuna said. I'm what humanity sends when we want someone dead. You ordered the attack on New Haven. You killed 47,000 humans. Most of them, children. That was war, Vexlar shouted. His hand went to his weapon, but Yuna was faster. Much faster. The blade entered his heart before he could draw. He fell, gasping, bleeding on his expensive floor. Yuna knelt beside him and whispered in his ear. This is for the children. She left his body where it fell and walked past his terrified family. She could have killed them too. It would have been easy. But that was not her mission. She wanted them alive. She wanted them to tell everyone what had happened. That humans could reach anyone, even admirals, in their own homes on the capital world. The power came back on 60 seconds after she left. By the time Valtorian security forces arrived, Yuna was 3 kilometers away, changing her appearance and identity. By morning, she would be off-planet. The Valtorians would search for months. They would find nothing. The message she left was written on the wall in Vexlar's blood. 3 words. Simple words that every Valtorian would understand. For the children. The assassination sent shockwaves through the Valtorian Empire. If an admiral on the capital world was not safe, then no one was safe. The military command moved to secure bunkers. Government officials demanded protection. Everyone was looking over their shoulders. This was exactly what Colonel Jiwan wanted. Fear was a weapon more powerful than any bomb. When the enemy was afraid, they made mistakes. When they made mistakes, they revealed weaknesses. And when they revealed weaknesses, humans exploited them. The Galactic Council finally convened to address the situation. The Valtorian ambassador stood before the assembly and demanded action. Humanity is conducting terror attacks across our territory. They are targeting civilians. They are violating every law of warfare. The council must intervene. President Sujin's hologram appeared before the council. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. Terror attacks? You murdered 47,000 humans and called it a proportionate military action. What we are doing is proportionate. You wanted to teach us a lesson about power. Consider this lesson received. Now, we're teaching you one. This is barbaric, the Valtorian ambassador shouted. This is not how civilized species conduct war. You're right, Sujin agreed. This is how humans conduct war. This is what we did to each other for thousands of years before we reached the stars. We are very good at it. We perfected it. Every tactic we are using against you, we invented and tested on ourselves first. You wanted to see what happens when you push humanity too far. This is what happens. End quote. She leaned forward, and her eyes were cold. You killed our children. You killed them deliberately. You targeted schools and homes and hospitals. You murdered an entire generation of New Haven colonists, and your council, this council, called it justified. So now you get to, Lee, the Valtorian Empire, was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. Every day brought news of another accident, another outbreak, another assassination. Their economy was collapsing. Their people were terrified. The High Command called emergency meetings, but no one had answers. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you defend against attacks that come from nowhere? They tried to rally support from other species. The Kryn Commonwealth had always been their allies. The Kryn were a proud warrior species who prided themselves on their military prowess. When the Valtorians requested aid, the Kryn Council agreed. They would send a fleet to demonstrate solidarity. They would show humanity that actions have consequences. Captain Deho watched the Kryn fleet approach through his tactical display. 50 ships, heavy cruisers, and battleships. The kind of force that could level planets. The Kryn commander was broadcasting on all frequencies, declaring his intention to defend Valtorian space and push back human aggression. They think this is a traditional war, Deho said to his officers. They think we're going to line up and exchange fire like honorable soldiers. They have no idea what they've walked into. The human fleet was smaller. Only 30 ships. But Deho had spent months preparing for this moment. His ships carried weapons that no civilized species used. Weapons that had been banned during the era of peace. Weapons that humanity had quietly kept in storage, just in case. Deploy the drones, he ordered. Thousands of small drones launched from the human ships. They were not sophisticated. Most were just engines with nuclear warheads attached. Kamikaze weapons. Suicide bombs. The kind of tactic that civilized species considered dishonorable. The Kryn fleet tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. The drones swarmed their ships like angry insects. Explosions rippled through the Kryn formation. Shields overloaded. Hulls cracked. Ships began to drift. Now, Deho said quietly. Mines. What the Kryn had thought was debris field was actually thousands of nuclear mines, carefully positioned and disguised. When the Kryn fleet moved into the killing zone, the mines activated. The space between the stars lit up with atomic fire. The Kryn lost 20 ships in the first 5 minutes. The survivors tried to retreat, but human fighters were already on them. The pilots flew with a recklessness that shocked the Kryn. Human ships rammed enemy vessels. Damaged fighters aimed themselves at Kryn engines and detonated. It was madness. It was suicide. It was terrifyingly effective. When the battle ended, the Kryn had lost 40% of their fleet. The survivors jumped away as fast as their damaged ships could manage. The Kryn Council immediately declared humanity insane and withdrew all support for the Valtorian Empire. They wanted nothing to do with a species that fought like demons. On the Valtorian fortress world of Tarkonis, the planetary government had moved to underground bunkers. Kilometers of rock and steel separated them from the surface. They had enough supplies to last years. They believed they were safe. Colonel Jiwan studied the bunker plans. Her intelligence teams had been thorough. They knew every entrance, every ventilation shaft, every weakness. The Valtorians had built their bunker to withstand orbital bombardment. They had not built it to withstand infiltration. We're not killing them, Jiwan told her assault team. We're taking them alive. Every single government official in that bunker is coming with us. Ma'am, extraction will be difficult, one of her officers noted. We'll have to fight our way out. I know. That's why I'm going personally. They infiltrated through the water supply system. It took 3 days of crawling through pipes and tunnels. When they finally breached the bunker, the Valtorian security forces were completely unprepared. They had been watching the doors and obvious entry points. They had never imagined anyone would come through the plumbing. The assault was surgical. Jiwan's team moved through the bunker like ghosts, stunning guards and securing officials. Within 2 hours, they had captured the entire planetary government. 43 high-ranking officials, including the planetary governor. Getting out was harder. Valtorian military forces swarmed the bunker. G1's team fought a running battle through the tunnels. They lost 3 soldiers, but the rest made it to the extraction point. A stealth ship picked them up and jumped to faster-than-light travel before the Valtorian fleet could respond. The captured officials were transported to a human prison facility. They were not tortured. They were not killed. They were simply held, alive, and well. The message was clear. Nowhere is safe. No one is untouchable. Humans can reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Sung-hoon ran psychological operations. His job was not to kill Valtorians, but to break their will to fight. He created false intelligence reports and fed them into the Valtorian communication networks, rumors of human super soldiers, stories of biological weapons that could wipe out entire planets, reports of massive human fleets that appeared from nowhere. None of it was true. But in war, truth matters less than perception. Valtorian soldiers began to desert. Civilian populations demanded their government surrender. Fear spread like a disease across the empire. The mind is the best weapon, Sung-hoon told his team. We don't need to kill everyone. We just need to make them so afraid that they defeat themselves. The Valtorians tried their own terror attack. If humans could target civilians, so could they. They gathered a strike force and aimed it at New Beginning, another human colony world with a large civilian population. But humanity had learned. General Junho, now in charge of all colonial defense, had spent months fortifying every human settlement. Early warning systems covered entire sectors. Defense platforms surrounded every inhabited world. Military fleets patrolled constantly. The Valtorian strike force was detected 3 light-years out. Human forces tracked it through every jump. When it finally arrived at New Beginning, it found not a defenseless colony, but a fortress. Defense platforms opened fire immediately. Human ships jumped in from 3 directions, cutting off retreat. The battle was over in 20 minutes. Only 3 Valtorian ships escaped. General Junho transmitted a message to those survivors. His voice was cold and hard. Go back. Tell your commanders what you saw here. Tell them we protect our own now. Tell them what happens when they try to make us victims again. Every human world is a fortress. Every human ship is a weapon. You can't hurt us anymore. But we can hurt you. We will hurt you. Until you surrender, or until you're extinct. Your choice. The 3 surviving ships jumped away, carrying Junho's message back to Valtorian space. On the Valtorian capital world, the High Command met in emergency session. The numbers were devastating. 30% of their industrial capacity was destroyed or damaged. Their agricultural worlds were paralyzed by disease. Their military had lost 60% of its strength. Their government officials were being captured or killed in their own homes. And they had not even seen the main human battle fleets yet. We need to negotiate, one admiral said. We cannot win this war. We are the Valtorian Empire, another shouted. We do not surrender to primitives. These are not primitives, the first admiral replied. These are monsters. We poked a sleeping beast, and now it is awake. If we don't surrender soon, there won't be an empire left to save. The debate raged for hours. Meanwhile, more human attacks struck across Valtorian space. More facilities exploded. More officials disappeared. More fear spread. The Galactic Council tried again to mediate. They invited both sides to peace talks. President Sujin agreed to attend, but only if the Council agreed to certain conditions. The negotiations would be held on neutral ground. Both sides would present their cases, and the Council would actually enforce whatever decision was reached. Sujin arrived at the Council station with Admiral Tae-won and General Junho. The Council members expected threats and demands. Instead, Sujin brought evidence. Videos, medical reports, testimony. She forced every Council member to watch the full footage of the New Haven V massacre. She made them see the children dying. She made them count the bodies. You ask why humanity fights this way, Sujin said when the footage ended. This is why. You called this proportionate. You said this was acceptable. So we showed you what humanity considers acceptable. You wanted to see how far we would go? We'll go further. We'll keep going until the Valtorian Empire is nothing but a memory, or until they surrender. Those are the only two options. The council chamber was silent. Some species looked sick. Others looked away. No one could argue with what they had just seen. Sujin stood up to leave. You have 72 hours to make a decision. After that, we start targeting Valtorian core worlds. Not with assassins or sabotage. With planet-killer weapons. We're done playing games. RN. What humanity considers justified. We are not fighting a war. We are conducting an extermination. The Valtorian Empire will cease to exist. The only question is, how many of your people die before you surrender? The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some species called for sanctions against humanity. Others quietly began withdrawing their support for the Valtorians. Everyone was calculating. If humans could do this to the Valtorian Empire, what could they do to anyone? That night, Kyungmin's team hit another target. Minho released more pathogens. 3 more high-ranking Valtorian officers were assassinated in their homes. The message was clear. There was no safety. There was no peace. There was only the slow, grinding destruction of everything the Valtorian Empire had built. And humanity was just getting started. The first teams deployed within a week. 16 stealth ships, each carrying a full special operations unit, slipped past the Valtorian borders. They used no transponders. They left no traces. They were ghosts. Back on Earth, President Sujin gave one final address before the war began in earnest. She looked into the camera and spoke directly to the Valtorian Empire. You killed our children. You thought we would accept it. You thought we would follow your rules and seek justice through your courts and accept whatever crumbs of mercy you chose to grant. You were wrong. We tried to be the humanity you wanted. Now, you'll meet the humanity you created. We're coming for you. All of you. And when we're done, the galaxy will remember what happens when you make an enemy of Earth. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Junho looked up at him with empty eyes. They killed the children first. That was their priority target. The children. Daeho had no words. He just stood there, looking at the graves. Tell Earth, Junho said. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that we tried peace. We tried to be good neighbors in this galaxy. Tell them what peace bought us. Daeho nodded. They'll know, sir. The whole galaxy will know. Good, Junho said. He stood up and looked at the graves where his wife and daughter lay. Because this galaxy is about to learn what happens when you murder humanity's children. They wanted to see monsters? Now they will. Ah. 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 Ah.